Hello, you are watching the Post Up Show. It's me, Cyrus Rogers. I'm here with the main man, Kaunda Chama, and we're going to be talking about the Milwaukee Bucks, but specifically looking at Giannis Antetokounmpo and whether or not Giannis, the Greek freak, the Nigerian Targaryen, whatever name you want to call him, has fallen off a little bit and what that might mean for the team this season. Kaunda, let's look at Giannis and just what his season has been like so far. Do you think that Giannis has sort of lost some of his powers? Because back-to-back MVPs, I mean, that puts the guy in some serious company in terms of the greats of the game.
Absolutely, Cyrus. And I think who was our last back-to-back? That was Stephen Curry, right?
Yes. One-time unanimous. But let's not make myself a Steph sycophant. Let's focus on Giannis.
Look, Cyrus. If you actually look at Giannis, right, his points and his stats haven't really fallen off. If you're looking at a guy who's putting up 28.6 points, 11.8 rebounds, 6 assists per game, this is a walking double-double, Cyrus. He is not. He is not just showing up and putting up a 10-point double-double. This is almost a 30-point double-double he's putting up almost every night, Cyrus. And 6 assists, that's a lot. He's contributing to about 12 points minimum. Now, Cyrus, this is, I think, I'm going to come out and say he hasn't fallen off. And I think what the team is trying to do is pace themselves for the postseason. I think they've learned from lessons where you come out, all systems go, burning on all cylinders, wind up at the top of the league like they did. Then what happens? Fatigue starts setting in, you start getting tired. And last season, we can also factor in COVID. That affected everything and people winding up in the bubble and change of environments. That, without a doubt, affected things. But Cyrus, now, it's not as if we're out of the woods with this COVID thing. It's not as if players are not getting tested regularly. It's not as if they're not living in their own little bubbles and having to go through a lot of rigorous things. And some people might say no, but everybody's going through it. But not everybody is chasing the title as rigorously as everybody. So
that's true.
The Bucks have a point to prove. When you come off a season where, Cyrus, you finished at the top of the NBA, not just the Eastern Conference, not just the Western Conference, you were the number one team, and then you don't make it, even to the finals. Then you gotta take a step back, because, Cyrus, I always say the Atlanta Hawks, right? 2015. I always go back to that. That's where I was heading. There's a common factor that you always bring up and say, who was the coach of the Hawks at that time? And who is the coach of the Bucks at the moment? Mike Budenholzer. Is there a problem? Do we have a Bud problem here? Is Bud actually Bud Light? I don't know.
Look, if you've got a Bud problem, you go to AA.
I think what we're facing here is a coach who's probably gone to his team and said, guys, pace yourselves. The postseason is grueling. The lights are bright, and people bring out their air game. And what happens is the game gets slowed down a little bit, and people manage themselves, and the defense goes up. So some people might let you have a game or two in the regular season, and you think it's all hanky-dory. But when you get past that, regular season and you go into the postseason, everything changes, because it's series time. Best out of 7. If you're not bringing it every night, you're going to go home in 4. So, Cyrus, I think that the Bucks have learned, and I think Giannis, as the de facto leader of the of the Bucks.
Of the Bucks? Almost known as the Giannis, actually.
Maybe they should be called the Giannis. But, as the leader of the Bucks, he has learned. I mean, this is a player who's been putting it all in. Back-to-back MVP, Cyrus, is no joke.
But let's be real here, though, Kaunda, because I think the question we're asking is, has he fallen off? And the reality is, stats-wise, a little bit. Because let's look at his second MVP title, and this is from last season, right? He averaged 29.5 points, 13.6 rebounds, and 5.6 assists. Now, the only stat that he's really up on this season is his assist numbers, where he's averaging an average 6 right now. But it's there or thereabouts. It's still the same, right? He won Defensive Player of the Year last season. I don't know if that's going to happen again for him this season, because he doesn't seem to have the same level of effort on that end of the court. But his stats numbers in terms of shooting and scoring are down by like a point, really. It's not a massive difference, but he is down there. Also, the rebounding is a little down from that, season, because he was averaging 13.6 rebounds a game versus now where he's averaging 11.8 rebounds a game. So it might be cause for concern in terms of the stats, almost showing let's say a rolling back of the effort levels, if we're going to be kind. But that first MVP season in 2018 and 2019, he averaged 27.7 points a game on his way to winning the MVP. He's scoring more than that this season. He's averaging less from a rebounds perspective by 1 rebound, but he's averaging a little bit more from the assist perspective. And this was across the 72 games in that season.
But
so
Cyrus,
he's not down. Yeah. He's not all the way down.
He's not all the way down. First of all, on the point side, you got to look at who was the point guard in those 2 other seasons where when he put up those numbers. He was playing with one Eric Bledsoe, wasn't it?
Yep.
So Eric Bledsoe left and went to NOLA. Now who has he got there? He's got
Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday. So I think now he's got an almost guaranteed scorer in Drew Holiday. I think Drew Holiday, if you ask me in terms of guards, he's a much better guard than an Eric Bledsoe. So I think if you look at the amount of time the ball is spending in Giannis's hands, I think it's less, and he's sharing more with one Drew Holiday, because Drew Holiday is a better scorer than what Eric was. I think he's got better stats.
Though he has been a bit injured this season, so you haven't really seen too much or the best of Holiday. But I hear what you're saying.
You know, and obviously you try new things, Cyrus. If the old formula doesn't work and you stick to the old formula, we'll once again be talking about Coach Bud next season as I know.
Exactly. But then let's look at what Coach Bud is doing. Right? Yeah. Because let's look at, that season where in the 18-19 season, right? They finished with a record of 60-22, were first in the Central Division and won the Eastern Conference, right? They then lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Raptors on their way to winning a championship, and they lost that series 4-2. It wasn't really all that close. But when you look at that says that at least the Bucks were doing enough to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Then you look at last season's stats, and this is something that we've spoken about a little bit earlier, and they made it to Eastern Conference semis in the bubble where they played the Miami Heat, and they were horrendous. The Heat beat them 4-1. I mean, this is the team that was basically number 1 and got the number 1 seed, even going into the bubble. So, yes, I know the bubble was totally different and the Bucks might not necessarily been totally focused on that. But it all counts. Your effort levels in the postseason. Now let's look at them currently. They are third in the Eastern Conference. They have a 19-13 season. Come on.
Before you look at them currently, Cyrus, let's take 2 steps back. The 2019-2020 season, Cyrus, they came up against the juggernaut in the Toronto Raptors. They were doing well, but that Toronto Raptors squad, Cyrus, not even the Golden State Warriors, okay, they were injured, could stop them. That team made Joel Embiid cry, Cyrus. That team made Joel Embiid cry,
I think it was more Kawhi, but I totally get you. The man was crying.
It was the Kawhi effect. The last season, Cyrus, something always happens. There's always a team that gets on this roll and they're literally unstoppable. It's kind of like when in 2016, when the Cleveland Cavaliers came back from being 3-1 down in the finals against the Golden State Warriors. They got on this roll and they kept rolling, and that happened to the Miami Heat last season as well, Cyrus. When they got rolling, they were determined to lay to rest anybody that came into in their way, it just so happened in their path. It just so happened they couldn't stop the Lakers at the end, because I think they left it all on the court, Cyrus. They threw everything at the Lakers, but the Lakers had AD, LeBron, JaVale McGee, they had Dwight Howard, determined to get a championship. They had Rondo, they had Alex Caruso. Cyrus.
You're naming all these names. My point, though, is outside of that, right? And I hear what you're saying in terms of like Miami being one on those roles, and perhaps the same with the Raptors. I can understand the Raptors one because the Raptors went on to become champions, but I cannot understand the Miami one because the Bucks, perhaps it was because of what was happening from and off the court perspective, not just the bubble and COVID, but also some of the social justice initiatives that were being fought for by the Bucks themselves because of what was happening in the city of Milwaukee. And so I think that their attentions were divided then. And perhaps that is the reason why the Bucks stats this season look a little bit like this, where they said, okay, fine, maybe we don't need to be the number one seed. Maybe we don't need to try and set new records and set the league alight. Maybe let's just do enough to get fairly high seeding, and then we'll take care of everything when it comes to the postseason. Now, I think, though, that when we look at Giannis, and I think maybe to answer the question that we've posed, has he fallen off? He might have from a scoring perspective, but it might also be strategic in the sense that the Bucks might be saying, Giannis, don't exert yourself so much. Let's work throughout the season on the stuff that you need to improve, whether that be free throw shooting, whether that be three-point shooting, because as we've seen with LeBron James, free throw shooting can be really, really important. And sometimes it can cost your team wins, especially in Giannis's case. He's actually cost the Bucks a couple of wins this season in particular with some missed free throws right at the end of games. So you gotta, and that's what stars do. Does this version of Giannis win another MVP, considering that the stats that he's currently putting up are very close to what he won MVPs on? And two, does this version of Giannis win a championship with the current Bucks?
Cyrus, first of all, if you look at what's happening in the East, first of all, let me answer your first question. Does this current Giannis win an MVP? First of all, there might be a bit of Giannis fatigue. I got to put that in just as a disclaimer. But secondly, not with Joel Embiid performing the way he's performing at the moment. Joel Embiid...
But Giannis isn't even in the conversation though, right?
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking. That's where I think the fatigue might have come in because, okay, we voted you in last season and the season before. And now Joel was like, no, I need a piece of that. You know, I can take some hardware back to Africa as well, you know. And then LeBron, you know, give or take a few missed free throws here and there, he's also on a tear to try and win another regular season MVP. So, Cyrus, although, you know, I'm supporting Giannis, but I don't think he's deep in the conversation, although his numbers are looking pretty decent, but other people have also stepped up. And the way the 76ers are looking at the moment, that gives more of an argument to one Joel Embiid to say, no, maybe he should get, you know, because he should get the MVP accolade because first of all, his team's doing well, he's leading them, and his personal stats are also looking very impressive.
Off the charts.
So I'm not saying Giannis is doing terrible, but Embiid is just edging him. And that's just...
I'm with that. I totally get that. I mean, having said that, I look at some of the other players who are in the conversation for MVP, like Joel Embiid seems to be the front runner. You've also got Nikola Jokic being spoken about, and it's great to see centers in that space and guys doing different things in their game. I think, like you said about Giannis fatigue, more than anything else, I think that's one of the things that people are going to suffer from, because it's not as if Giannis has evolved his game and he's now a spot-up three shooter or, you know, hitting those mid-range Js. And I think that's where people look at it and say, but what are you doing different this season that makes us want to vote for you again? Last season, the weight of his stats just alone was enough for him to just go back to back. So I think from an MVP perspective, Giannis just isn't really going to cut it. In terms of this version of Giannis winning the Bucks a championship, I honestly don't know if that's going to happen, because late in games, the Bucks need to have more than just Giannis trying to do a spin move, Giannis trying to do, you know, a Euro step, and then missing free throws. You know, he's got to be able to add more to his game if they're giving him the ball late in games. But more than Giannis, the Bucks need way more from Middleton, who some people feel was also a snub in the MVP voting, not MVP, in the All-Star voting, because he's been fairly good. He's been fairly good for the Bucks. But I think that's where the Bucks are almost trying to build a team that can win them games when the going gets tough. So I agree with you in everything that you've said about, you know, the Bucks and their run towards a championship, and also their stats, because it seems as if they're trying to pace themselves.
Although they're sitting at third at the moment, and maybe they can get better, they've also got two big problems in their way if they want to win that championship. In the East alone, they've got one, a motivated Philadelphia 76ers, which is being coached by a championship-winning coach in Doc Rivers. I know he never won the championships at the Clippers, but something is looking very different in Philly. Maybe it's that bell. Maybe it's I don't know what's happening in Philly. Maybe I don't know.
A bit more
But
hunger.
it's working. Maybe it's working. Maybe he's eating jollof rice with Joel Embiid. I don't know, but it's working.
That
And then
Ubuntu again.
Ubuntu.
Oh gosh.
But anyway, Cyrus, another problem in the direction is the Brooklyn Nets. You cannot deny the Brooklyn Nets, Cyrus. They're on fire. They've got 3 of the top 10 players in the NBA at the moment. 3 shooters, 3 excellent ball handlers. Cyrus, it's a problem. I mean, I feel sorry for Giannis because this could have been a great time to come back-to-back, and then in your third one, you win the championship, maybe get yourself a championship MVP, a finals MVP trophy. But not with the Brooklyn Nets looking the way they're looking. Cyrus, this season is so scary that even the New York Knicks are looking like they might see the postseason.
It is. Things have changed, Kaunda. Things have changed, and I agree with you totally. I do think the Bucks have got some major obstacles on the East to get through before whoever they might face in the West. So they have to be at the A game, and that is a conversation for another day. Because whether or not this Bucks team will win a championship, perhaps not with the pieces that they have there. We're going to have to leave it there, Kaunda. Thank you so much, man. It's been another great episode of the Post-Up Show, and obviously you'll be joining us again because, you're a part of this franchise. You're the Robin to my Batman, dare I say it. And so, yes, I did that. But we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you, everybody. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you tell your friends about the Post-Up Show. For us, it's goodbye. Till next time.